Hi there, my name is Pierrick and I work as a Developer Relations Engineer for the Google Ads API. Welcome to the Optimization Score and Recommendations series. In this episode, I covered the technical details of applying recommendations with parameters. For a complete list of the resources and previous episodes, please check the video description. I'll do some live coding that requires a basic knowledge of Google Ads API mutates and reports. Feel free to check our technical guides if you need a refresher. Alright, let's start with a quick reminder of what we already discussed in previous episodes. An optimization score below 100% means there is room for improvement. In such a case, the Google Ads API may share recommendations. Each recommendation represents one change that can be applied to optimize the performance of campaigns. Eligible recommendations are retrieved in real time using the recommendation resource type. They come with many details such as impact metrics and related entity IDs. To apply a recommendation, you need the resource name and parameters. I prepared a few code examples to demonstrate how we apply recommendations with parameters using the recommendation service of the Google Ads API. Please note that I use the client library for PHP, but the logic is the same for all client libraries. Also, I use keyword and campaign budget recommendations here, because I have plenty of them in my testing accounts, and they are pretty easy to roll back. Each recommendation type has its own specificities, but the logic is the same with any other recommendation types that are fully supported by the Google Ads API. In this first code example, we want to apply an eligible keyword recommendation. To do so, we authenticate, retrieve the recommendation to apply, send a mutate request with the right operation, and print the results. We already discussed how recommendations can be retrieved in another episode of this series. Feel free to watch it to learn more. In this example, we use a method that I already implemented. It retrieves and returns a single eligible keyword recommendation from the authenticated account with all its important information. The associated resources, here campaign and AdGroup, and the keyword recommendation object, which is specific to this type of recommendation and provides useful data to decide what action to take. It comes with the recommended CPC bid amount, the keyword text, and the keyword match type. We can apply the recommendation that is retrieved by setting its resource name in one operation and send it using the recommendation service. Here we do not set any apply parameters in the operation. The recommendation is applied exactly as Google recommended. We already discussed how to take actions on recommendations in another episode of this series. Feel free to watch it to learn more. Once applied, we print the results of the request. Because all apply operations are instantaneous, we can make a subsequent request to search and print the keyword criterion that was added. To find the right one, we use the AdGroup resource name and keyword text values that are specific to the recommendation. If I execute it for a serving customer, the recommendation retrieved is successfully applied and its resource name is printed. We can see that the new keyword criterion was added exactly as recommended. Most of the recommendations can be applied with parameters. It depends on their recommendation types. In the case of keyword recommendations, there are optional parameters available. They can be used to customize what's recommended. Here we can override the recommended parameter values for the CPC bid amount, the keyword match type, and the AdGroup. Let's edit the code example to use some apply parameters. We still want to use the recommended AdGroup, so we reuse the value retrieved in the recommendation. But we want to force the match type to be always broad, so we add it as a constant value instead of relying on the value retrieved in the recommendation. If I execute it again, the recommendation retrieved is successfully applied and its resource name is printed. But this time, the new keyword recommendation was added with a match type set to broad instead of exact, which was the recommendation. Applying recommendations with invalid parameter values leads to failures. For example, if we try to customize the CPC bid amount with a negative value, this time the apply operation fails with an invalid bid amount error. The best practice is to make the application as resilient as possible. Failures can even happen with the recommended values because of concurrent modifications or because some fields are not set. For instance, in this version of the code we reuse the AdGroup retrieved in the recommendation. If for whatever reason it is not set, then the apply operation will fail because the AdGroup is a required parameter. This is exactly what happened here. Each recommendation type has specificities in the way that recommendations are provided, and in the way that apply parameters can be used. In this second code example, we apply a campaign budget recommendation instead of a keyword recommendation. We need to select different fields to retrieve the information about the recommendations for this type. The field campaign budget recommendation comes with a completely different set of fields. It contains the current amount, recommended amount, and amount options. The apply parameters and their use are quite different as well. They are still optional, but they are only used to customize the budget amount. This type of recommendation edits campaign budgets instead of keyword criteria, so I had to change the methods that search and print the results. In this example, we want to use a constant budget amount regardless of what is recommended. If I execute it, the recommendation retrieved is successfully applied and its resource name is printed. As expected, the campaign budget was updated to the constant amount provided in the apply parameters instead of the amount that was recommended. Alright, we covered the most common scenarios that you may encounter when applying recommendations with parameters. Let's take a step back and quickly summarize the key takeaways. All requests send and return recommendation resource names. Parameters can be provided as part of an operation to customize the recommendation to apply. This is typically useful when an application needs to follow some arbitrary rules, or when an application wants to edit values based on additional signals. Only the parameters that are specific to the type of the recommendation being applied are taken into account. Some recommendation types, such as maximize conversions opt-in, do not rely on any apply parameters. In this example, we set apply parameters that are specific to the keyword recommendation type. The use of apply parameters may be required depending on the recommendation type and the situation. In our example, setting keyword parameters is optional, but when it is set, both the match type and the AdGroup are required. This is why we had to set both the AdGroup and the match type parameters in the previous example, even though the only one we wanted to customize was the CPC bit amount. Apply parameters can be set based on values that are retrieved in recommendations. If we come back to our example, we could easily retrieve the AdGroup and match type values associated with the recommendation and reuse them to set apply parameters. When it comes to error handling, a good practice is to apply recommendations as soon as possible after retrieving them. The longer the wait, the more chance there is to end up with a failure because of an invalidation or a concurrent apply. Another good practice is to be as resilient as possible. Some failures may be impossible to prevent due to concurrent additions or invalid apply parameter values. For example, a recommended budget amount may become invalid due to account settings that were recently changed. Alright, that's all I had for this topic. If you're interested in this type of integration, you can check other dedicated resources listed here and check the other episodes of this series. Thank you for watching. I will see you in other videos.